mentioned, I'm a pretty new member. I didn't step into Celebrate Life until January of the prior year. So I'm still learning and still verifying all that I'm here. And I believe that evidence-based belief is more reliable throughout any situation. So this is I want the evidence, and I've seen plenty. So the title of my talk today is Evidence Belief, Knowing What Is and Has Always Been, because we're talking about natural law here with spiritualism. Um, the alternate title was The Breadcrumb Trail That Led Me to Become a Spiritualist. So they both work. 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't know what a spiritual church was. I never heard of it. All my exposure had been with Christian churches and some Eastern religions when I was doing my search for a place that resonated with me and made sense. I stepped into the Golden Gate Spiritualist Church, which is based in San Francisco. It's the oldest spiritualist church on the West Coast, for sure. And Alan Huguenot was holding a series of talks for IANDS. It's the organization that does research on near-death experiences. And since Alan had one when he was young from a motorcycle accident, I was interested in attending to the series of talks. The reason why I was interested was because I had a ND near-death experience, similar experience, 20 years, more than 20 years ago, about 20 years ago, where I saw the bright white light, and I met a loving being who left me a profound message that I was doing everything right when it really looked like that what didn't, my life was such a mess that I couldn't believe the message that I heard. But it also gave me a clue that somehow this life that we're living is sort of planned, that we're doing everything right, everything that's happening should be happening. Although if you told me this earlier, I would have never been able to accept that. So, and I also had some anomalous experiences too that were not explained by any traditions that I was checking out. None of those traditions explained, talked about past lives, afterlives, mediumship, or psychic ability. So, and I didn't even know that a religion existed for any of that stuff. So during these talks that I attended at Golden Gate Spiritualist Church, one guest speaker came in to talk about her mediumship ability that she acquired after her stepdaughter passed away in a tragic accident. She was very young, and somehow she started being able to communicate with her deceased stepdaughter. And I was fascinated because this woman who was speaking, her name is Suzanne Giesman, she talked about the value of evidence in doing mediumship. So she'd go through a checklist of details in her work when she did mediumship for her clients. And because she felt like this is how you validate that we are really communicating with spirits on the other side of the veil, and they can't be refuted. But I realized that I had some evidence of the afterlife from even before, but I couldn't tell anyone about it. I had a grandfather that passed away, and he came to visit me a week after he had died. I loved him very much, and I was devastated when he passed away. When he came to visit me at night, I felt his presence, but I was so scared to turn around and look at him because, first of all, I'd never seen a ghost, and I didn't know how I was going to deal with it, but I turned around and looked. So I felt this energy linger for a while, and then he went away because he decided he didn't want to freak me out. And then about a few days later, he reappeared, but in my dream. And in this dream, he assured me that he was fine, that he was no longer suffering from his long illness. And he even pointed skyward to me and says, I'm up there. It's beautiful and it's bright. And look at me, I look great. I said, yeah, Grandpa, you do. And I'm so relieved. But so this was in a dream. And I had no one to talk about this to because I didn't understand. At first I thought, okay, this is, I'm projecting my hope that he is fine, that this is all my imagination. And therefore it couldn't be valid. And I wasn't going to get anyone to tell me, yeah, what you saw was real, what you experienced was real. So after Alan finished a series of near-death experience speaker talks, there was another year before on meetup.com is a great resource, everyone. I saw that he was hosting a talk at Celebrate Life. So, oh, good, I get to hear more about near-death experience from Alan. I'm going to attend with no intention of joining a spiritualist church. I want to tell you, I just came to listen to the talk. And from then on, I showed up every week because the people seemed nice. See, there's a little guest book where you put your name down and your email for the newsletter. I used a fake name because I've stumbled onto churches that use strong arm tactics to recruit people, and it is like, never leave your real number or your real name because, I'm just bringing trouble upon myself. So, but I want to tell you that the church that was using strong arm tactics was the Church of Scientology, and they scared me because they were so aggressive with their tactics. I went on a clear session where you hold the metal soup cans tied to the meter, and after that visit, I was just checking it out, because a coworker was raving about this religion. So I thought, okay, this is different from any Christian or Eastern religion that I've ever explored, and it just didn't work out anyway. So back to Celebrate Life, I kept coming, and I got messages from my mother from 4 different mediums during this year and a half time period, and she's been gone for many years. And the last time I got a message from her was through Haruka, who is our guest medium today. And this was back in April during the pandemic. I was still trying to learn how to use Zoom, and I couldn't get the audio setting right, so I missed half of the reading. But I got the important part of the message. The important part of the message was my mother was telling me that I should tell my story so that I could help other people. And today I'm going to tell you how she was additional proof about life not ending just here, but also about forgiveness and redemption. So I want to tell you that my childhood was terrible and I would never want to go back to it because my mother was severely mentally ill. She had a form of psychosis that made her generally exhibit 3 stages of emotions. One was terrifying violence when she was in her rages. Another was her paranoid delusions when her medication wasn't working. She would imagine things were chasing her, and she tried to get me to go tell other people when I didn't see anyone around her. And then the other would be crying depressions, in which case I would try to comfort her. So I was either running from her, standing dumbfounded with what she was telling me, or otherwise comforting her when she was depressed. So I honestly remember like maybe a handful of times that she actually smiled and laughed. She was a very distressed person. And because I grew up with her, I did not know what normal was. And I had to backtrack in my adulthood to learn what normal was, what love was, what respect and good boundaries were. And this was with both my father and mother. They were both very disordered, very hurt people who could barely take care of themselves, not to mention raising children. So, this was my life, and I went to therapy so I could fix my own life to make better decisions and have better boundaries. And I had to stay away from my parents for a while because I needed to stabilize my own life. That is until my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and I agreed to help my father take care of her if I had conditions, if she was cooperative and she wasn't going to badmouth me while I'm taking care of her. You know, that was going to be the deal killer if she did that. And to my amazement, she was very cooperative and almost childlike while I was caring for her during her last year of life. I drove them to doctor's appointments and tests, and we made a game out of it. We couldn't tell her what was wrong because that would just scare her. So we made a game out of it. We brought her favorite foods for the long chemo therapy sessions, and we go get lunch afterwards. And towards the end, about I would say about 2 weeks before she died, I was in the pharmacy waiting for her medication. She was in her wheelchair. I was exhausted because I had just taken a job that didn't turn out well, and the commute was killing me. And I had just broken up with a boyfriend. I was heartbroken. So I was just exhausted physically and emotionally. So I'm pulling her wheelchair close to me to keep her out of the traffic behind her. And I'm slumped over the arm of her wheelchair, just really tired. And I feel her pulling on my arm. And she's pulling me close to her to give me a kiss on the cheek. And I looked up in her eyes, and in her eyes, I saw her soul. And I don't know, I can't explain to you how it was communicated to me, but I heard her telling me, dear, I was playing a role for you. I was playing a role for you. And so after that, I only visited her one more time for Thanksgiving when I brought over Thanksgiving dinner for my folks. And I think she knew she was leaving. She was going to be moving on. So she started telling me that she loved me. I'm a good daughter. Are you going to come back and see me? Stuff that she never said before. You know, this is like the first time, you know, and here I am in my early 40s and I'm hearing this from my mother, who was my tormentor when I was young. And then when she died, I thought, okay, this is it. I'm not going to ever hear from her again. And so, but, at Celebrate Life, messages coming through from her, and I'm realizing, wow, she's always been here. I just didn't realize it. So anyway, it's I'm surprised. I didn't expect it. This is my life, a lot of twists and turns. It's like, how is this going to end? And I realized also that children who grow up in an abusive environment can't be told, this was all planned, and this is, you shouldn't be upset because this was all set up for your learning and whatnot. I think you cannot tell anyone this because they have to process the trauma first. They have to heal enough to be able to see this other side. And I never expected to have come to this point or even live this long, actually, because those were really tough years, my younger decades. So I wanted to talk about spiritualism as a religion. I agree that the main precept is that life does not end here with this physical life, and I wanted a religion that is helpful and comforting and based on truth, because then it will never fail you, because it will always be there for you whenever you need it. I appreciate a tradition that allows you to question it and to allow you to do your own exploration to uncover more truths. So I wanted to read a paragraph from the NSAC site under What We Believe under Religion, so that under the tab of religion. You can look that up under their site. We spiritualists try to keep an open, even mind so new truths may be incorporated into our principles. In keeping with this, we have no bound creed or set of dogmas. Our declaration of principles, which form the basis of our beliefs, has changed over the years as new clarification has been gleaned. We know that truth is the highest religion and endeavor to test our beliefs, altering them as new truths are proven. This is very different from the more traditional religions that I've explored, and I really appreciate the openness. And anyway, there's still a lot of questions for me to answer. I don't necessarily agree with everything that the Spiritualist Church believes in, but I'm grateful that I'm allowed to continue exploring. Some of the questions that that are left for me to answer is, what about past lives and future lives? What is their stance, and what will I discover about that? Was there really an agreement before we arrived here in this physical manifestation? Was it mutual or unilateral? And as for our purpose here, again, who decides, mutual or unilateral? I had a minister once in another church explain, I don't think we're all here to learn. And from my observation, I see that some people don't learn while they're here. He said, we're here to experience. And I had another teacher tell me, because God loves to play, and that's why we're here, to experience drama, and through our physical sensations and emotions, that we have such huge, broad possibilities of experiencing everything in this physical life. Do we have soul groups and soulmates? And I can't tell yet the difference between spirit guides, God, and whether there are dark elements. These are all things that I'm trying to decide for myself. And I look forward to that exploration as an adventure. Anyway, thank you very much for listening and being here. Love you all.